Well, this is the moment you've been waiting for, where we shift into Act 3. The dramatic tension builds as the seductress, the wicked queen, makes her move. This is a potboiler story, more steamy, more blatant, more tinged with corporate power than Hollywood's hottest hits. In fact, it's almost X-rated. Where are we in the story? We've been talking about a slave kid named Joe, or Joseph. Now, he's not a kid, and he's hardly even a slave anymore. As we discovered yesterday, this young man is so capable, so filled with character, excellence, so clearly a person blessed by God, that he's been placed in charge of all that Potiphar owns. He's got complete administrative authority over the household and the master key. A point to remember, even everyone in the house knows that Joseph is God's man. Potiphar realizes it. The family realizes it. The rest of the servants know it. The reason this foreigner, Joe, does so well at everything is because he serves a different God. And now, Mrs. Potiphar. She's right there in the house, watching this kid named Joe rise through the ranks. Naturally, as the mistress of the house, she doesn't mind that he's running things well. In fact, with Joseph there, things just keep getting better and better. And one more thing. He just keeps getting better and better looking as well. Remember, he's turned from a kid into a man. In fact, the New King James Version sets the stage for us in Genesis 39, verse 6. And Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. Now, how would we react to all these variables from a 2020s Hollywood mindset? Here's Joseph, a good-looking young man. Not only good-looking, but strong, capable. He's got a determined, intelligent gleam in his eye. He's knowledgeable and quick. He's friendly and articulate and a fast learner. He's got a zest for life, and he's already demonstrated that he's an achiever on Egypt's fast track. Face it, he's an intriguing, attractive young male. And from an age point of view, it's hormone time. Joseph is a single young man with all the same temptations and desires as every young man who's ever seen a beautiful woman walk by. And here's the wife of his boss. The Bible doesn't tell us whether she was young or old, gorgeous or not gorgeous, but we can probably assume from cultural indications that Mrs. Potiphar was part of the upper crust of society. Very likely young and easy to look at. And after a certain period of simply watching, this woman comes right out and makes her pitch. Now, friend, she doesn't say, Joseph, how about a drink after work? Or, are you hungry, Joseph? How about a sandwich? No, this woman comes right to the point. 5 words. Come to bed with me. And those 5 words are right out of the New International Version of the Bible. In the King James, it's just about as plain. Lie with me, which is impossible to misinterpret. I don't know, for a young man or any man, there may be no temptation tougher to resist than this one. This is a wide open offer. No hints, no progression, no winks and whispers, although there may have been some of that leading up to this moment. But right now, Mrs. Potiphar is saying to this young man, anytime, any place, I'm yours. Now, Mr. Potiphar's gone away on business. She's not a Christian. She's a woman, a liberated, modern playgirl. My former colleague and scriptwriter, David B. Smith, he wrote a piece about Mrs. Potiphar for a youth curriculum. And I want to quote how he described this encounter and what this young man, Joseph, experienced. Joseph squinted up at the unfinished cabinets he was working on, blinking as a speck of sawdust blurred his vision. Another half hour ought to do it, he muttered to himself, straightening up to his full height, his bulging muscles straining the fabric of his clean t-shirt. Pulling a nail out of his jeans pocket, he was poised to attach the final piece when he paused, cocking his ear to one side. Why was it so quiet? Usually the hubbub of servants working in the kitchen and gardens created a steady drone that echoed throughout the large mansion. Today, dead silence. He had finished driving the nail into the hardwood when he noticed a movement at the door. Looking up, he saw the familiar figure of the owner's wife. I didn't see you come in. She laughed, soft and silvery. You were too busy pounding that hammer, Joe, she observed. I guess I just slipped up on you again. She added the last word with a smirk. Again. Slowly, deliberately, Joe picked up another nail. Guess I better finish this, he said. She stepped toward him. It looks to me like you're already done, she said, evenly, eyeing his physique. Why don't you take a break? You've been working so hard lately. There's no need to do any more today. I don't need a break, he said with a rush. I want to finish this project before Mr. P gets home. She tossed her head impatiently. He won't be back for 2 days, Joe, she said with meaning. We've got plenty of time. She paused. And all the servants are away until tomorrow. Didn't you notice how quiet the house was? She took the hammer from his reluctant fingers. Now come on. Let's relax a little bit. No. Joe took a deep breath. No, we've been through this before. I'm not interested in what you want. Her face took on a hard look. Even in her anger, she was a strikingly beautiful woman. Joe, you work for my husband, but you also work for me. Her voice took on the edge of a veiled threat. I can make things very pleasant for you here. Or... Joe took a step toward the stairwell, but she blocked his path. No one's ever going to know. What's the matter anyway? Don't you think I can take care of everything, including you? She grinned maliciously. It's not that, Joe said, his courage growing. I just can't. That's all. Well, I'll bet you can, she retorted. And I'm going to find out. No. This time Joe's voice revealed unmistakable determination. She took him firmly by the arm. Don't make trouble, she hissed. Have you thought of the consequences if you say no to me? Do you have any idea what I could do to make your life miserable? Several long seconds ticked by. The silence of the empty mansion surrounded the couple. For the briefest moment, Joe considered the irony of it all. So many of his peers had been bombarded by parents and teachers and rabbis telling of the dreaded consequences of saying yes to the seduction of sexual involvement. And here he was with the consequences of saying no. Joe looked temptation and Mrs. Potiphar squarely in the eye. Thoughts of his dad's trusting gaze flashed through his mind. A decision made years ago on the back of a slave owner's camel flooded his mind. Firmly, he shook himself free from the woman's grip. Think of the consequences if I should disappoint my God, he said softly. And with that, he was gone. Can you feel the sensuous electricity in the room? The older Mrs. Madonna, fixing her smoldering gaze on this young man. You know, it's a rare person who could resist that today. But let me add another layer of perspective, which you maybe picked up. You know, we tell kids today to stay away from this temptation. We tell them about unwanted pregnancy. We lecture them about STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, about social complications like having to drop out of school. And yes, we've been telling them about AIDS. Today, having promiscuous sex can actually kill you. There are so many risks to the wrong kind of sex. Here in the 2020s, there are all kinds of good reasons to resist. And we all know it. In fact, right now, virginity is kind of in again with some for all these very reasons. Even if you're not a born-again Christian, there's a huge pile of reasons why it's dangerous to say yes to this particular temptation. But with our friend Joseph, the exact opposite was true. With him, all the risks were in saying no. She could have him fired or jailed or killed. Now think about it. Certainly there wasn't any HIV virus back then. Disease wasn't a problem. Pregnancy wasn't a problem because Mrs. Potiphar could make provision to pass off any mishap there as her husband's fault. Fear of discovery wasn't a problem because the mistress of the house could make sure they'd have private time alone, as we'll discover in just a moment. The only danger for Joseph to think about was that of making this powerful and beautiful woman angry. For him, just saying no was the risky thing to do. Right now, whether you're a man or a woman trying to emotionally put yourself into this situation, a beautiful woman or man in a position of authority over you says, I want you. And don't worry about the details. I'll take care of everything. I'll handle it. You just show up at the bedroom in 15 minutes. Well, let's advance the plot a little bit. What happens? As we've just read, Joseph says no. He turns her down. Today, a Hollywood producer would never believe it, but this young man refuses to go to bed with the wife of his boss. Unbelievable. How does he do it? That's what we want to know. How does this young man, in the prime of life, at the very peak of his adolescent virility, say no to a free and easy offer like this one? Let's go straight to the transcript. Genesis chapter 39, verses 8 and 9. But he refused. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he's entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. Now listen to this. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Here we see a two-tiered kind of loyalty that to me is unbelievable, almost revolutionary. First of all, Joseph is loyal to his master, Potiphar. Your husband has entrusted the whole house to my care, he tells her. He's put everything in my hands except you. How could I cheat him like this? You know, I like that. Here's a man who knows what's right and what's wrong, even if it's available. I can't cheat, he tells her. Even if we could get away with it, I won't do it. Even if it would feel good, I choose not to. But now the greater loyalty. Here's where a kid named Joe really shows that he's one of the great Bible champs. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Friend, that is a marvelous testimony for a young man. This little sexual fling wouldn't just be a fun half hour. It wasn't a case of cheating the boss by sleeping with his wife. Joseph knew that this was a moral confrontation where God was the central party. Joseph was God's man. He'd said so. He'd openly lived his life in allegiance to the God of his father. And now for him to deny all of that, to throw it all away for a sexual fling, was something he just couldn't do. Today, some people put all the sex variables together in the mixer, and they claim that there's no way out. TV reports on network news programs interview teenage girls and out-of-wedlock babies and the issue of welfare. Maybe you saw it. One young girl looked into the camera and said, "We can't stop having sex. We're going to have sex." As if to say, it's impossible to resist this. There's nothing bigger than sexual temptation. We couldn't fight it even if we wanted to. But in this straightforward, R-rated adult Bible story, Joseph finds the one thing bigger than the volatile, pulse-pounding temptation of adultery: his loyalty to God. Over the years at Potiphar's house, his relationship with God had grown and strengthened until it was a towering redwood tree of resolve. Nothing could beat it. But now turn up the volume. This isn't a one-time offer. Joseph says no on Monday, but on Tuesday, Mrs. Potiphar is right there again. Now her skirt's hiked up even a little bit higher, and the message is the same. Come on, baby. Anytime, any place, just knock on my door. And friend, she doesn't let up. Day after day, she's right there, sometimes mysteriously and coy, sometimes blatantly vulgar in her openness. Come to bed with me. Finally, one day she arranges it so there's no one home, and she makes her move again, and this time more insistent than ever. She grabs his coat. I'm not taking no for an answer. She pants breathlessly, her perfume hanging heavy in the air. Well, Joseph does say no for the 100th time. And this time, Mrs. Potiphar picks up the phone and dials 911 and cries, "Rape!" And our hero Joseph, who's been so strong, so faithful to his God, finds his life hanging in the balance. He actually comes within an inch of being killed and is lucky just to end up in prison, the San Quentin Hilton of Egypt. Sometimes you just have to ask, why? Why? After such incredible faithfulness, why after years of hard work and witness, why after such a triumph in this one battle, would God let Joseph end up losing the war? Or is this war over? Is there more? Sitting in prison, you couldn't blame Joseph if he thought the final chapter had just been written. Fade to black and roll the final credits. Curse God and die. But there's still more. Stay tuned.